Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by Big League Chew. This is episode 321. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin, and I'm here with my co-host, Nate Reyes. Nate.
Good day, good people. How we doing?
2 games deep.
I know.
2 games. No, you know what?
Too.
Let's just get into it. Give me 1 sec here. Let's just play this back real quick.
Is it the harp?
To be honest with you, I think the Phillies come out and take game 1, and I would give Houston game 2.
I like that.
I really like their odds against Verlander after hearing or reading more about his World Series woes. How about that? I mean,
Look at that.
Look, casual baseball. You call us casuals all you want. I mean,
Bob.
We've been
Suck it, Bob.
We've been laying this out really since day one. It's just been laying out what's going to happen. Well, I mean, some more than the others. I would add, but one of us has had it.
One of us clearly knows what we're talking about.
Whether it's me at certain points, whether it's you with certain calls,
we trade off. We're never on at the same point. It's just that's what a good team does.
We
right?
just pick each other up. But at the end of the day, one of us is going to have the right call. And
yeah, eventually.
I mean, 2 games deep, we nailed it. So,
I agree.
How do you feel?
I feel good. Good games. Look, I think we kind of talked about how like the Phillies, they don't have any quit. They don't have any quit. You know what I'm saying? Like they get punched in the mouth. They're expecting to get punched in the mouth. You know what I mean? They're not surprised. And we talked about this on the last episode. They've been in hostile environments. You know, they've been underdogs the whole time. It's just, I don't know. It just all feels right. It all feels good. Everything's going Philly's way. And even in the loss for game 2, I feel good about our predictions.
They didn't roll over.
Yeah, in
game 2. And you know that I was thinking about this watching game 2 last night. The thing that I think that I'm so attracted to about the Phillies is that, and we've all been here. We've all, regardless what team we follow, like what kind of fan we are, we've been in a situation where there's an important moment in the game that we're watching. And this could be a random Thursday in May. I don't care what game it is. But there will be a point in the game where we're watching and we're going, man, the odds of this happening, there's runners on first and second. We could really use a 3-run bomb here. Heck, we could even use a 2-run double off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of it happening are very slim, and that's usually how it plays out. It's like a pop-up in foul territory down the third baseline. But with the Phillies, I swear, it's like, man, we could really use an extra base hit right here to set things up, or we could really use an extra base hit to bring in a guy. And for some reason, for the postseason, at the very least, I feel like more times than not, they're coming through in these situations. Again, even in the loss, we're seeing a team that's not rolling over. We're seeing a team that is taking the environment in Houston in stride, which I may be the minority here. I didn't think Houston's crowd was all that impressive these first 2 games. I've
never really felt that way.
Previous postseasons, and I'll give them credit, previous postseasons, I feel like that place has come unglued. But these first 2 games, I don't know if it was just because there was this expectation. I don't know if Kyle Tucker's comments before the World Series started planting the seed in their head where it's like, okay, this will be a quick 4-gamer and we'll get our ring and get out of here. I don't know if that played any role into it, but I wasn't all that impressed by what I saw from the Houston crowd. There was no, as silly as it is, there was no unison for the most part with their rally towels, which again, not a huge deal, but you can use that as a little bit of a gauge of where they're at. as a collective group. I wasn't all that impressed. But with the energy that they did bring, I think Philly took it in stride. And like we said last episode, getting out of Houston with a split and heading back to Philly for
ideal.
3 straight games,
Super ideal.
You're sitting golden if you're Philly.
Yeah. Is it just me, or did you notice a little bit of pressure kind of getting to both teams defensively? Like there were some really routine mistakes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like routine ground balls that just, routine scenarios. You saw the double play opportunity for Pena up the middle, and you obviously everyone's seen the video of Altuve just not on the bag, kind of crouching down, ready to see the throw to go to first over his head, right? You saw that muffed play up the line by Gurriel at first, late in game 2. Even the fly ball that was in center field with like 1 out and Yordan Alvarez was on second. It was like a routine fly ball. It wasn't even deep.
Yeah.
And you didn't see much momentum. You didn't really see Marsh get behind the ball and like expect Yordan to go to third. And it was just kind of this, short hop to Bohm that, it is what it is. Now, there's small things, but I think you can start to recognize that. Look, the conversation is that, there's key players that don't really have necessarily deep postseason experience, right? Pena's obviously a rookie. They already saw that stat in the Phillies lineup where Schwarber is pretty much the only one with postseason experience for the most part. So it's just like, I think that's an ongoing narrative, but I'm curious to see how that tightens up. I think the series will get tighter and games will get a little bit closer. But it's just like, even at game 2, what was that, a 5-2 ball game? And you saw the last out, there was just a ground ball to second. They threw it to first. So you saw like this like complete exhale from the Astros. That's a 5-2 ball game. Man on third, 2 outs. And you feel like it just felt like the weight of a bases loaded game tying possibility scenario, and it wasn't. So I think that pressure is interesting. I'm curious to see how that develops throughout the rest of the series. I'm curious to see if defense starts to tighten up a little bit, and you're a little more tapped in defensively,
Yeah, and on some of these mental mistakes, I'm tempted to give these guys the benefit of the doubt because, like you mentioned, the Altuve thing. I think anybody in Altuve's spot on that ball up the middle,
yeah,
I think everybody's turning over their shoulder to watch the ball go to first. I think, not that I'm necessarily pinning it on Pena because like I see what he's trying to do there, but it's really like a no-win situation for both of them. And then like
it's perfectly placed ground ball there.
Yeah, like with Marsh in center, what are we taught in baseball? You never make the third out at third. You've got a bigger guy in Yordan at second base. There's just a lot of factors that in that moment, as you're camping under the ball, you're going, he's not. There's going to be no advancement here. And sure enough, Yordan takes advantage. And credit to Yordan, those risks that you take, those oftentimes end up being the things that put you over the edge in these games. Mm-hmm. And if you do enough of those over multiple games, that ends up more times than not being the thing that helps you win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Before we get too deep.
It seems minute, but it's like this is something to where you see teams, the teams that have been eliminated, you see teams that are in these types of plays, these types of scenarios. And I know it's that mental exhaustion of, this season, right? You get to the end of the season and you've been tapped in all year, and it's hard to continue to be tapped in. So you have to recognize that like there is a physical and mental exhaustion with these players at this point in the season, but you got nothing. Nothing to hold you down here. Like, you got to have it.
Game 1, post-game, Castellanos was literally talked about. He's like, yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, it's hard to keep focused during 162, like at night in and night out. But he's like, the postseason, he said there's no reason as to why you're just not locked in or why you shouldn't be locked in always. He's basically just saying it's impossible not to be because every pitch counts. These things. And I think even Smoltz was saying, I want to say it was during the Game 2 broadcast where he was talking about and I completely agree with what he was saying, how he was saying in the postseason that a guy on first base, he may have said first and second as opposed to like bases loaded, but he was basically just like one guy on is a rally in the postseason. You can make that is a huge difference as opposed to some random Thursday in May. Like you get a guy on in the postseason on first base and you've already got something cooking because we see how quickly last night to start off game 2 was a perfect example to see how quickly things can, depend upon which side of the ball you're on, get out of control or manifest in a good way. So just a lot of things at play here, a lot more at stake. But before we get too deep into talking about the first 2 games, want to get through these voicemails real quick. So I believe this first one, if I recall, was actually sent to us either during or immediately after last episode. So it might be slightly dated, but still wanted to get it in there. Let's see what we got. It's coming. Come on. Now our soundboard. Why is our soundboard acting up again? We're really going to do this again? All right, folks.
That's crazy. We just tested it. We were just making all the sounds right before.
All right, here we go. Guess we'll have to figure out why it's not working.
Trash.
Need to figure this out. This is really getting to me. All right, here we go. Let's just go over the phone here.
Hey, guys. I really hope this is still the voicemail, the number on the Instagram account, but your voicemail is no longer working, in case you didn't know that. But anyway, Kyle said basically that, he loves the World Series matchup, but he also hates it. That's exactly how I feel. That's why I like listening to you guys. Like, I want to see the Phillies succeed, but more so I want to see Bryce Harper succeed. But I cannot stand Phillies fans. I think they're insufferable. And I also want to see Dusty Baker succeed, but I really don't want Houston to succeed. So I'm really torn right now, and I'm just going to sit and watch this World Series and feel the pain of not having my team playing, and I guess be happy for individuals, but really neither team. So that's kind of where I'm at with this World Series matchup. It's a weird one. Anyway, thanks, guys. Bye.
I get it. I definitely understand it.
And the fact that he's locked in, though, that's the thing. And that's what we've been saying this whole time is the sooner you can come to terms with the fact that your team's not in it and you can just sit back and maybe pick out a few storylines, a few individuals you want to follow, it makes it enjoyable even if you don't have a dog in the fight. And in a way, it's a lot less stressful that way. And you're able to make the most of it in that regard. But completely agree. I don't know about the Phillies fans being insufferable. I mean, I think you need to look no further within the same division to find a rather insufferable fan base, one of which we've talked about. Actually, there's multiple insufferable fan bases in that division. But I mean, I guess to each their own. If you want to lump the Phillies fans into there, I guess that's fine.
Yeah, I mean I think that's widely known. They can be brutal at times, for sure, across all sports. Well, that's what you want. You know what I mean? If you're playing for that city, that's what you want when it comes down to it. So
I mean, they're undefeated at home, the Phillies in the postseason. So tell me, call us casuals all you want. We spent probably more time talking about the Phillies fan base at times than we did the actual games that were taking place on the actual field. But there was
no one liked my comments about what I said about Philly fans versus Padres fans.
They ate you up.
Yeah.
They ate you up on that.
Look, we've seen a postseason where it hasn't necessarily been a factor for any other city, right? We've watched away teams come in and just be fine. This is the only team so far You haven't seen that's the case. You know what I mean? That it makes a difference. And when you have that kind of fan base, you love to play for them and you hate to play against them. But I told you, Philly is different. They're just different. You could cheer as loud as you want in some of those other places, but they're just different. The blue collar live and die for my sports kind of mentality. Philadelphia you could argue that it's the heart of it. You could argue that is where it stems from. So you can hate me all you want, but so far I wasn't lying to you.
I knew you were right because a lot of the comments were asking about how the Yankees were doing. And so I'm like, okay, if this is what we're sliding
that's what you got to fall back to. Yeah.
We're hitting the right nerve. All right. Voicemail number 2.
Hey, fellas, AJ Torres from Danbury, Connecticut.
The man.
As far as my Yankees, I'm still going over notes, and I don't feel like cursing up a storm. But don't worry, when the offseason comes around, I'll give you my real thoughts of how I really feel. But the one thing I wanted to mention right here is this bat situation, and I found out because of you guys. So before you get into that, am I the only one thinking that how are you going to grandfather in a bat? But if you look at everything else, there's so many things that we could not use today that I saw growing up. And I'm only 28 years old. When they banned greenies, the old heads were pissed. Why? Because they weren't hitting the balls like they used to. Now, I'm not sure how much this banned bat, how much of a difference it is. But, Nate, there was a while ago where you were going, you know what? I'm pretty sure these balls that Albert Pujols is hitting, that they're juiced. And I thought about it, and I was kind of on board with it. But this whole bat thing where it's banned for one guy, but because he's been using the same bat for, well, let's see, 2010, so he's been using it on and off for 12 seasons. Does something just sound not right, or is it just me? I want to know your thoughts on this one. Lay it in deep. Take it easy, fellas.
All right, we're definitely going to cover the bat thing, but with that being Game 2 news, let's hold off on that for just a minute. Game 1, you may or may not know where I'm going to go right off the bat, but Bryce Harper was in the cleanup spot.
Yeah, I noticed that
to
too.
start this series.
Yeah.
And I believe was in the cleanup spot in Game 2. In fact, yes, he was in the cleanup spot in Game 2. I'm not going to say that Philly Rob listens to the pod, but I'm not going to say
it.
that he listens to the pod. Because you want to talk about segments that we maybe talked about at length for too long.
Yeah, that might have been it.
Probably Bryce Harper being in the 4 spot. But you even said, like, well, why are we talking, like, people probably asking, like, well, why are you guys talking about Bryce Harper being in the 4 spot as such an important topic? Well, we laid it all out there. We said, why fix it if it isn't broken? Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, there may have been a report on it, why he ended up coming out in the 4 spot. But I'm wondering if there was no research done on that or kind of poking around as to why that would be. I wonder if maybe just internally they were like, yeah, you know, like, is there any sense in moving it around if it's been working for us? Because I was genuinely surprised. I was fully expecting him to come out there. But then Game 1, I see the camera pan out and it's showing the whole park. And I'm looking down and it was like 2-3 up. And I look down on the on-deck circle and I'm like, well, that's not Bryce Harper. So he must be hitting 4th. He's either been scratched from the lineup or he's hitting 4th. And he comes out there and they get a win. He had a couple base knocks. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Mojo, like we said, Mojo, it's a real thing. It's a real thing.
Yeah, and I think there's I think every fan base feels this at certain points throughout the season. There's an ongoing battle between gut feel and analytics. And I don't know what side was associated with which. You know what I mean? I don't know if analytics was saying put Bryce Harper in the 3-hole or if that was gut feel. I don't know who won that battle. I just love the fact, say what you will about the Astros. I love the fact that we have two managers that 100% are dialed into their clubhouse. They're 100% dialed in to what these guys need. And I'd like to think that Philly Rob was the one that made that final call of saying we're not going to switch it. I'd like to think that's the case. I don't know if we'll ever know.
I thought of you game, actually, I mean, they kept him in the spot, but with Altuve when they were going through the lineup. And I think they were talking to Verducci as the game was getting going, and they were running through the lineup. And he was like, Jose Altuve, they're sticking with him in the lineup spot. This is their man. This is the guy that they want at the top of the lineup. And I'm like, we literally just got done talking about this, how there are limits. Like there's certainly a threshold for where it's like, all right, we need to help this guy out. Maybe get him some looks at some different pitches. Maybe get him some looks at some more fastballs. Maybe push him down on the lineup. He doesn't necessarily need to be leading us off. But with a veteran like Altuve, who's been here before and has done it before, I'm a huge fan. And like I said, we talked about this. I'm a huge fan of Dusty doing what he did by keeping his guy at the top. And it's paid off. Like he went, he had 3 hits in game 2, had a hit in game 1. So he's already matching his total hit numbers from basically like the entire postseason just in his first couple games. And I think there's something to be said for sticking it out with a guy like that. Maybe, again, different scenario if you're talking about like a rookie or something. Maybe if Pena's struggling or something. But Altuve, if you're sticking it out with your guy, a lot of times they'll figure it out. If they've been around the game long enough, they'll figure it out and they'll get you to where you need to go. And that's what Altuve's been doing.
Yeah, good point. And also, I think when you look at like Dusty just managing over decades, that has been up until, I don't know, the last 5 or 6 years, that he's your prototypical leadoff guy, right? He fits the mold of what we've all known for baseball growing up, is that it's that trendsetter, right? It's that spark plug. That's what I need at the top of the lineup. I think it'd be a different scenario if it was like, not that it would ever happen, but if your Don was it, at a position where it's, a leadoff DH spot, he's slumping a little bit, and it's like, you know what? I'm Dusty Baker. I'm used to different types of leadoff hitters. I know analytics are saying this guy, is a good leadoff hitter, but I'm going to change things up. That's not the case. Jose Altuve is a through and through leadoff hitter. He's been that way his entire career. The only reason this is somewhat of a conversation is because we now have analytics introduced, and where it's like, you can start adjusting and altering the way you think about a leadoff hitter, i.e. Kyle Schwarber on the other side. You know what I mean? So props. And it's just, again, it's 2 managers. I love Rob Thompson. The fact that he has an opportunity and he's running with it. I love that he's gotten an extension. I love that the guys are backing him up. And it's 2 guys that have a finger on the pulse and they truly believe in their guys. And that's what you have to have in a manager, especially at this time of the year.
Well, I think one guy that Dusty Baker's not going to have any problem penciling in for the rest of the series is Kyle Tucker. Game 1, certainly backing up the talk. I don't think we talked about it last episode because I think it came out after the fact, but he had that quote where he was talking about, I'll just pull it up. I don't want to misquote here, but I couldn't tell. I don't know enough about Kyle Tucker to know if this was just like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, if he's just kind of like a on the goofier end. but he had the quote where he said, hope, and this is prior to game 1. He said, hopefully we just win it in 4 and we make it as easy as possible for us. But I mean, they're a really good team, so it might go a little longer. We're just hoping to get it out of the way early. So, like, I get what you're saying. And I watched the video because stuff like this, I don't want to put it out there without knowing kind of the context of it a little bit. And so I watched the video, and I'm like, you could tell he wasn't trying to like present bulletin board material. He was, I really think, just based on his tone, he was very much he was more so confident in his own team's ability. Mm-hmm. And you look at the quote, he kind of gives a little credit. He's like, they're a good team. It might go another or an extra game or two, but basically just saying I have every confidence in the world that we'll be able to take care of business. And game 1 comes out and does absolutely everything he can to make sure that it's getting done in 4. He hits 2 bombs, a solo, and a 3-run homer. But those couple instances were moments where I had to tip my cap to the Houston fans there, where they were going off a little bit, and rightfully so, because we've talked about it before. I don't think Kyle Tucker gets talked about enough.
No, not like, nearly enough. The guy's a stud.
Yeah. And the fact that he was the guy to come out and do it, especially after the quote, I think was pretty cool.
Yeah, and especially after, kind of having a down series against the Yankees. Well, that's what we talked about before, right? Like, good lineups have their guys that are going to rotate, right? And you kind of rode the Yordan horse early in the postseason, and then he's kind of cooled off, and now it's like, Bregman has been ridiculous the whole postseason, but who's going to also chip in? This is what good teams have. This is what good teams do. I didn't really take anything out of the comments. It's just like you got to be confident in your guys, and I think in yourself, right? It's like it's the same thing when like Mike Trout gets asked the question of like who's the top 3 dream team outfielders that you would choose. He chooses himself, right? And it's just you got to have that inner confidence, and he came out and showed. Good for Kyle Tucker.
I'm not making this direct comp, but the guy that immediately comes to mind when I hear Kyle Tucker and I just see like his mannerisms is Cody Bellinger. Like, he just gives me that, I don't know what it is. Okay. So that's why I didn't take that quote. Like, I took it with a grain of salt. I'm like, this guy is just kind of, he seems a little bit aloof. I don't know if he is. Mm-hmm. Again, I don't follow the team nearly as much as, or nearly as closely as Astros fans, but I don't think he meant anything personal by it. But
I don't think so either.
I'd say they came out and took game 1. Bigger picture here, Justin Verlander's World Series woes continue.
Yeah.
And he looked he started off strong. He had like I think it was like a no-hitter through 3 or 4. I think was it 10 straight he retired? So I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is the game where he kind of breaks out of it a little bit. But again, the always fighting Phils, mm-hmm. they didn't roll over, came back, made a game of it, and knocked him out. And I don't think he didn't get tagged with the loss. Or no, he didn't get tagged with the loss, but still just not a good finish for Verlander in game 1.
And I think I saw that the Astros are 0-6 all time in game 1s in the World Series. Yeah, dude, that's it's not a good look, and I don't want to say, I don't want to bring Kershaw into this, but I feel like there's always one guy that you gotta have to pick on. You know what I mean? That media just exposes. I don't think most of us knew that stat before the World Series. I don't think most of us really understood how bad he's been in the World Series. It's just this poorly timed narrative that comes about, and you have to wonder if it gets in your noggin a little bit. As professional as Verlander is, and as clutch of a veteran as he is, you gotta wonder if there's like this narrative that's just, it's hard to shake. It's hard to shake. And there could have been this split moment after that, you know, a couple hot start innings where you're like, all right, I finally shook the narrative. I'm good. And you breathe for a second. And sure enough, you kind of let things up. So it's just, I don't like it, but I do like it. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm pulling for Phils. And it's not a knock on Verlander, but it also just proves what we talked about early in the postseason is that, and it kind of stealing what you said about D-Row on MLB Central, you can't have the expectation that you're going to have your guys at the top of their game throughout the entire postseason. It's just not a thing. So I don't want to talk poorly about Verlander after what I can assume is going to be a Cy Young season. For just running out of gas a little bit in the postseason. And that's kind of what horses have to deal with, right? You're riding those guys all year long. So, I don't know. Obviously, he's going to get another start. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. And if he has a poor start and the Astros lose, that's probably something that's going to haunt him for a full year.
We need to really be looking at lumping him into the David Price, Clayton Kershaw postseason type conversations, because you can be good. We've seen Kershaw, one of the best of our generation. Verlander, one of the best of our generation. But like, reality has to set in at some point, and we need to have these harder conversations where it's like, these guys couldn't necessarily get it done when the team needed it. And that, again, I'm not setting out to go after Verlander. I'm not setting out to go after Kershaw. Like, I think they're fantastic at their craft. But these are the things that need to happen, and we need to stop maybe making Kershaw the piñata of the league or of the postseason woes, and start maybe shifting our focus to a guy like Justin Verlander, who it's not just like poor. It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. Like the numbers are not. I mean, the ERA. I think it's now the worst in World Series history, right? With, I think, minimum 30 innings.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good.
And that conversation is so hard because it's like you have guys that it's weird because you can erase a bad regular season with an amazing postseason. You can happily get the forgiveness from fans if you show up in the right scenario. It doesn't work the other way around. You know what I'm saying? If the Astros lose, I think we're like, and Verlander gets a Cy Young, you're like, okay, you didn't do it when it counted. You didn't do it when we needed it. You can't flip that script. That's something that's going to stay on him for a minute. I'm not rooting against the guy. He's a Hall of Famer. You want Hall of Famers to succeed, and you want, those types of heroes to show up in the clutch moments, but not good. Curious to see how short his leash is for his next start.
And that's a great point you bring up. Like, because this is the last taste we'll have before the offseason, before months of no baseball. If Verlander goes out, if the trend continues and he goes out his next start and that ends up, I mean, they're all pivotal games, but if he loses, maybe not necessarily the final game of the series, but he loses maybe a pivotal game the day before the final game of the series, or even loses the final game of the series, depending upon how these next few games go, that's what's going to be left with these fans for the Astros. If they don't win the series, what he did in the regular season, it's not going to matter, especially for a fan base like that who prides himself in only caring about World Series titles, despite only having 17 as of right now. You can't undo that. You can't flip the script, because it's this and nothing else. It's this and then winter. You can't undo that. So he's going to need, I mean, it goes without saying, but he's going to need to figure out a way to keep his team in it in whatever start he ends up having next. So
100%.
We didn't even really talk about it, but JT Realmuto with the go-ahead home run, top of the 10th. I mean, we all saw this, but
yeah.
Little nugget here from ESPN. JT Realmuto is the first catcher with an extra inning World Series home run since Carlton Fisk's walk-off in Game 6 of the 1975 World Series.
Also, the 2-run double, right? Didn't he hit a 2-run double the at-bat before?
Yeah, he had 2-run double. Bohm had a 2-run double. Kyle Schwarber with the tacos. Thank you.
Yeah.
That would have not have been my first pick. Certainly would not have been my first pick.
Yeah.
Castellanos saving the game in the 9th. I don't know if you caught that.
Saw that.
Was huge.
Was that not the same exact play he pulled off in Atlanta?
I mean, I don't know.
It was literally the same play.
I don't know what's going on with Philly as a whole. The things that people criticize them for the most have been what's carrying them through this postseason. Their bullpen and defensive highlights. Like, people can say what they want about any team at any time at any point in the year, but when it comes time for October, anything, we talk about it all the time. I'm sick of saying it, but anything can happen in the postseason. Mm-hmm. And if you in April, if I would have told you, hey, Philly's going to be in the World Series, and the reason that they're going to make it as deep as they do is going to be because of their bullpen, their defensive highlights, and timely hitting, you would have said,
no,
you're on crack.
Not at all.
So, like, here we are. And there's still people at this point in the postseason talking about the format being an issue and how they're saying, well, Philly just got hot at the right time. Excuse me, Philly had to at least stay above water. It's not like they just let anybody and everybody in. It's not like Philly came in as a 40-win team to October and then decided, oh, let's flip the switch and get hot. Let's get the boys rolling here. No, Philly had to stay above water. Sure, they didn't go out and win 100 games, but they did what they had to do to make it to the postseason. And then every sport has a postseason. Every sport has a playoff. Like, if you're going to sit there and say, pump the brakes. I saw a comment. I don't know if I brought this up. I saw a comment where somebody said it should just be between the best team in the American League and the best team in the National League. And I said, what kind of end to a season is that? What kind of proposal is that?
I had that for like 60 years.
The postseason is what makes it what it is. Like, I'm not even going to entertain that. But anyway, all that to say, I think what we've seen through the first two games illustrates and demonstrates the fact that anything can happen in baseball. You have Houston Astros, what many would label as the favorites. They go up 5-0. Philly comes back, makes a game out of it, ends up stealing it in extra innings. Game 2, also Houston goes up 5-0. The Phillies aren't able to seal the deal. They're not able to make a game out of it necessarily, but they give you a little bit of fight.
They go down punching.
They do some things. They've done some things in both games. And Houston, to their credit as well, they've had certain facets of their game that have shined brightly through these first two games. But it's just a perfect demonstration of the fact that anything can happen in October. And it's in my opinion, shaping up to be a very entertaining rest of the series. And this goes back to my point that people were saying, well, Houston 4, it's a lock. Like, sure, Philly's gotten cute up to this point, but they're going to run into a brick wall with Houston. Well, they rolled into Houston and took the first game of the series. So we're already guaranteed 5. I was talking with somebody in the comments about that today. Already guaranteed 5. Even if Houston runs the table, it wasn't 4. And that was my entire point of saying that Philly is good right now. Houston's also good, but you have to let the series play out as it will because anything can happen. Game 2, I think just further evidence that anything can happen. Zach Wheeler, 3 straight doubles. I don't think anybody saw that coming. In fact,
me neither.
It's never happened in the World Series because the Astros, I have a note here, the first team to start a World Series game with 3 straight extra base hits.
Yeah. It is what it is, right? It's the same mentality. Like it's the same thing. You can't play it on paper. You got to go out there and do it. And I wouldn't be too stressed about Zach Wheeler. You're fine. It's all good. You know what I mean? These guys had a game plan, and they probably had a feeling that you were gonna alter some things and try to surprise them with stuff. And they're good hitters. They're professional hitters. That's the way it goes.
They were talking about that.
He battled through, and he had length. Like, he still got length out of that game. And
yeah.
I think I noticed that I've noticed that the leashes have gotten longer, and you almost like you race through the postseason as like, I need this game no matter what. And then you feel like things have kind of slowed down for the World Series. And you watch, Wheeler give up, 5 eventually, and it's like he's still in the game. And I like that you know what? Keep us in it. Get back to what you feel like, right? The last thing I want to do as a manager is let that be the last taste in your mouth. You give up 5 through 2 or whatever, and it's like you're out, and that's what you're going to sit with for 4 or 5 days? No, dude. Show me the dog in you. Keep battling, and let that be the taste in your mouth. You know what? You didn't have it today, but you gave us length. You kept your team in the conversation. Yeah, offense didn't really get you back in it, but that's okay. And that's what you can take away. Great job. That's a pro right there.
Speaking of arms, I guess now would be the best time to address this whole Framber Valdez thing. Actually, no. You know what? Before we do that, let me say about Manscaped. Support for the 3-0 Take is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 6 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code 30TAKE. That's all caps. That's our social handle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com with code 30TAKE. That's our social handle. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Go ahead and tell us about Big League Chew while you're at it.
Big League Chew. Big League Chew started from humble beginnings in the Portland Mavericks bullpen in 1977. For more than 40 years, the iconic pouches packed with shredded, flavorful bubblegum has become the #1 shredded gum of athletes everywhere. Big League Chew has sold more than 900 million pouches, probably 1 billion thanks to you. Yeah, that threw me off. Can't do that. I can't go ad-lib there. You go ad-lib, you lose the flow. You know what I'm saying?
Can't ad-lib it.
You really can't. Head to Big League Channels head to Big League Chew's social media channels. At Big League Chew on Twitter, at Big League Chew Gum on Instagram. Show off your Big League bubbles. You can also find a list of retailers that purchase any of their products directly from their website at bigleaguechew.com. BOC. Big League Chew.
Framber Valdez. Look, I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'm tired of talking about it. Like, I'm tired of the Twitter police. I'm tired of the well, what do we have here? Like, yes, we've talked about this. We've all seen it. We all see what's going on. You're watching the same game. You don't have some secret subscription to different camera angles. We're all watching the Fox broadcast. We see the same exact thing. The only thing that you maybe see differently than some other fan is just maybe the frequency of how often something happens. But in terms of the camera angles, in terms of the glares that you're seeing, the shininess, the substance, the going to a glove versus going to a hand, going to a neck, going to your hair, whatever it is, the umpire going to one hand versus the other, the umpire not checking it all. We all see it. We all see the same stuff. I'm tired of talking about it. Whether or not they're cheating, that's another conversation. But this whole, like, gotta police the broadcast, gotta get the clip on Twitter, well, what do we have here? We all see it. You're not breaking any news. You're not doing any of that. We all see it. Now, Nate, let me ask you. What are your thoughts on this very thing that we all saw?
At first?
Because let me preface by saying, and say what you will about Astros fans, what I heard from Astros fans is that this is something, at least the mannerisms, the patterns that were on display last night are not something new for Framber. This is regular for him. This is routine for him. The term in terms of the movements that he makes, in terms of the places that he goes in between pitches. I'm told, I don't know if it's 100% accurate, but I'm told that this is his MO. So I'll preface it by saying that. But in terms of maybe what you saw, what are your thoughts?
At first, I kind of think it's just like, whatever. Pitchers, they get moisture off of their arms and hands. Like that's a normal thing. We've already discovered that you get a tackiness when you combine moisture with rosin. But after Twitter police kind of got on the scene, the new glove threw me a little bit of an interesting take there.
I will say that. Yeah.
That's, going from the brown and tan glove to the all black glove. What's that about?
And I will say there was a considerable amount of wiping prior to going over to meet the umpire in between innings. I don't know if that was every inning or if that was just one particular inning where maybe things were a little worse than previous innings. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't know what to take away from it. And like I said,
I think we all need to understand the fact that if you play baseball, you try to get an edge. Right? You stick your elbow out and try to get hit by a pitch. You get in the box and you erase that back line of chalk so you can get a little bit deeper. Right? You do certain things to give you a little bit of an edge. I don't think this conversation happens if it's any other team. It's just, this is what is going to follow you.
And this is brought on by yourself. Like you brought this on yourself, Houston. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Sure, we can talk about it ad nauseum, but, and yes, I think you and I are both on the same page that, like, I think we've reached our limit in terms of just running the trash thing into the ground. But at the end of the day, the only reason we're still talking about it, the only reason we're hyper-focused on incidents like this and the Maldonado thing, which we'll touch on briefly before we wrap it up, is like these accusations just don't come up out of thin air. Like, there have been instances, major instances over the last number of years where these kinds of claims and questions are justified and warranted, that it's just a reality.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, there is a tweet here from John Johnson. Seems like a reasonable tweet. He says, Valdez is a really good pitcher. However, switching gloves, changing cleats, rubbing palm, always wiping hands on hair and pants as he leaves the mound. Strange things, impossible not to notice, not saying anything, but asking what is going on. Seems like a reasonable tweet. And I feel like that's where a lot of fans like you and I and others who aren't just chomping at the bit to find any little thing to accuse the Astros about. But it's, like you said, it just raises the question, like what's going on? Why is this happening?
I think the hair thing is definitely a conversation that MLB is going to have and probably figure out over the off season. You see Karinchak with Cleveland does it after every pitch.
Yep.
Goes to his hair, goes back to the mound, flips, grabs some rosin, and then he does that flip, right? He's flipping the baseball a couple times. I don't want to see umpires come out and run their fingers through guys' hair. I don't want umpires to have to be the ones that are figuring out if this is gel or sweat. I think there's going to be some regulations that come. Similar to the way we grew up, you couldn't go fingers to the mouth when you were on the mound. Oddly enough, you could do it as long as you left the mound, which is I never understood, but that went away. If you did it, you had to wipe it off originally. Now that's just they don't care. I'm curious to see if there's like some type of elimination of going with your pitch hand to anything. Rubbing up the baseball is one thing, but yeah, it's odd. The hair thing is the one that really kind of gets me.
Look, unless Major League Baseball can come together with a union and create an agreed upon substance, this is always going to be an uphill battle for Major League Baseball. You're never going to be ahead of the curve. This is going to be the same scenario as trying to keep drugs off the streets. These dealers are going to find new ways. These people that create drugs, people that deal drugs, they're always going to be one step ahead of you. You're going to be, as a person trying to prevent these things from happening, you're going to be reactionary. You're going to be responding to the things that happen. Because these guys on the mound, they're the smart ones. They know what works. They know what gives them an edge, legal or not. They know what they're able to create, what they're able to use, where they can go, how often they can use it. And they're going to figure out ways, if you implement this rule or that rule, they're going to figure out ways around those. And they're always going to be one step ahead of you. So if you're the league, and we've talked about this with the whole, with the union and the league being at odds over this and that, and players calling out the league for this and that, you're going to have to figure out something, or else these conversations are going to continue. These accusations are going to continue to be made, and you're never going to hear the end of it. That's just the reality of it. I am watching this video. I will say I'm watching this video again. Watched it over and over last night. But it's
really getting in that palm.
Yeah, it's like a cupping motion where you're clearly trying to work something off of whatever it is that you've got there, and it's off his glove hand, which that was a point of conversation last night, is that these umpires, when they do check, which
it's basically just touch hand.
Yeah, touch glove hand, and they go on their way, and it's really not even much of a check anymore. It's like they run it through and they're on their way. So he's going to his glove hand, trying to work something off. At least that's what it looks like. He's trying to work something off that inner palm there, like the fatty area of your palm underneath your thumb. And then he's working it into the baseball, and I don't know. He does the same with the glove. He goes to the glove on the inside of the glove. So I don't know what
the glove
to make
change
of it.
is the reason. I think I wouldn't have thought much of this until the glove change. The glove change is what really made me feel like, you know what? That's not normal. It's not a normal thing. You see pitchers rub up baseballs all the time. You see pitchers touching their arms, touching their hairs. That's a normal thing. You don't see glove changes in the middle of a game. It's odd. Maybe it's a superstitious thing, right? You see guys that take the batting gloves off because they're for their last 8, right? Like that's a superstitious thing.
Yeah, but if you're
mid-game and you're Dyson,
there's no superstition to be had there. There'd be no reason to change. I think he finished with 8 or 9 Ks. Was I think scoreless through his run, right? Yeah, I just don't know what to make of it. And then on the flip side, you got the Martin Maldonado situation. Look, people were coming at me on all platforms saying that I was just stretching. I was trying to make something out of nothing. And I just want to run through what I posted, because this, for some reason, got blown out of proportion. I simply made my classic quote tweet graphic. I take the person's tweet, put it on an image, and then I provide a caption. The post was from Mark Berman, who's with Fox 26 in Houston. He says, per Fox, Martin Maldonado used a bat last night Albert Pujols sent him that MLB considers not within the rules. Remember that, not within the rules. It was grandfathered in for Pujols because he had been using it prior to 2010. So Martin back to using his bats. Okay, that was the quote. That was the tweet from Mark Berman. My caption, Houston Astros, Martin Maldonado used an illegal bat in Game 1 of the World Series. That's all I said.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I said. Factual information. You can dispute that till you're blue in the face. That's a fact. Literally says Major League Baseball considers not within the rules. Let me ask you this. If you're not within the rules, where are you?
Illegal.
You're outside the rules. What is outside the rules? Illegal.
Yeah.
What I said in the caption was fact. Martin Maldonado used an illegal bat in Game 1 of the World Series. I was just bringing that to light. I wasn't trying to make something out of nothing. I wasn't trying to get one on the Astros. I wasn't trying to like build up a case and say, oh, look, they're cheating again. I simply brought to light the fact that Martin Maldonado used an illegal bat. My thoughts on the situation, it's a non-story. If you look into why the bat was being outlawed by Major League Baseball, it was because of a breakage issue. The types of bats that Pujols was using, I believe in what I was reading, was because it was a low density maple bat that just had a history. They saw, I guess they looked at the data and saw that style, that build of bat was just more prone to shattering as opposed to breaking in more concise parts.
Yeah.
So it was more, and I saw the report came out last night and said it was more of a safety issue than anything else. There was no performance advantage.
Right.
There was none of that. So all things considered, it's a non-story. I wasn't trying. I'm just trying to clear myself here. That I wasn't trying to like make a case for cheating. I was just bringing to light the fact that he used a bat, and it was interesting because when I did that, it created a platform and forum for people to go back and forth, trying to figure out like what made it illegal, like why, to explain to me the whole grandfathered thing, because a lot of people just didn't understand the story behind it. So if anything, I feel like it helped people, but you got those people in there that are just bitter about this and that, saying, well, you're just trying to make something. No, that's not what I was doing.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. That was all I wanted to say there.
Whatever. I don't really care. Maldonado still doesn't really hit that well. So, going back to AJ's voicemail about Pujols, why is this just now being brought up? You know what I mean? Why isn't this well known? Why didn't we know that his bat was grandfathered in? Cheating or not? It's just an interesting conversation, and it's why now? When you hear stuff about this kind of, scandal, it's like, why now?
I feel like if you're Pujols, the only scenario, and I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt in this situation, but the only thing that I can think of is that Pujols just maybe in an effort to help out Maldonado with giving him some extra lumber or something, maybe just forgot in the process. Because you obviously, when Major League Baseball comes out and changes their regulations on bats, I would imagine that they would have to inform somebody like Albert Pujols saying, you're using this bat, this model, this style that we've identified as something that can no longer be used in the game that we're playing moving forward. However, we're going to grandfather you in. And obviously, as we know to this point, and just up until a couple weeks ago, Albert Pujols was still playing. His career spanned a long time. So if you're going to grandfather that in, you have to know that there's a chance that this could stretch out a while. So if you're Pujols, it's possible that maybe you just forgot. And then, like I said, in the process of making that exchange for Maldonado, you just forget. Maldonado uses the bats. The words get back to the league that he's using a bat that they've identified as something that can no longer be used. And that's how the story comes to light. I would hate to think that there was some sort of prior knowledge on Pujols' part, I would just like to think
it.
that he just forgot, because that it seems like such a trivial thing. And again, to me, that's why it's a non-story.
Only reason this is a story is because it's the Astros. That's it. That's the only reason we're talking about it. It's the only reason. I'm still staying by my stance. Balls were juiced for Albert Pujols. Absolutely. We already talked about how they were specifically marked baseballs so they could be authenticated once he got into the crowd. Balls were juiced. His bat, whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Non-story. All right. That about wraps it up. It's split going back to Philly. Whether or not Philly can take 3 straight and prevent having to come back to Houston, that's yet to be seen. But as we mentioned, Citizens Bank is 5-0 this postseason, so they know what they're doing up there in Philly. No need to. We've already made our predictions. I think we're both in agreement.
Both said 6.
Philly in 6,
which means Astros will take 1 in this series.
Yeah, which is
or in this homestand.
Yeah,
for the Phillies.
Yep, and we both said they'd split in Houston, so Houston's gonna take 1 in Philly. I like it. I'm gonna need that inside the Parker from Segura. I'm gonna need that. But other than that, I'm gonna sit back and enjoy. We got
sit back and enjoy.
We got some good baseball coming up.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you got?
No, not really.
We'll see you guys Thursday. Because it's a line up perfectly. It'll line up on our normal recording day. Travel day is Thursday. If Philly was to close it out over these next 3 games, over Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we will have a World Series recap coming to you on Thursday. But if they send it back to Houston, we'll have it available for you on the travel day, and we'll be able to get you prepped for the potential finale, whether it be Game 6 or possibly 7. We'll see how these next few games play out. But other than that,
either way, we're there for you. What else is new?
We'll be there for you. We've been there for you this whole way. We'll be there for you till the end.
Yeah, I love it. You know the drill. Don't go chasing curveballs.
We love you all, and as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.